I'm a 35-year-old stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, a boy who's 7 and a girl who's 5. I used to have a career in marketing, and honestly, I loved it. I had my own paycheck, my own schedule, and I felt like I was really making something of myself. But when our son was born, I decided to stay home full-time. It just made sense with how expensive childcare is, and I wanted to be there for all those little moments. Plus, my husband, let's call him Adam, has a decent job as a mid-level manager at a tech company. He assured me that we could manage on his income alone, and for a while, it seemed like we could. Adam is 37, and when we first met, he was the kind of guy who could charm anyone. He was always so confident, the life of the party, and he knew exactly what to say to make me feel like I was the only woman in the room. Our early years together were great, but as time went on, I started noticing things. He can be impulsive, especially when it comes to spending money. I would brush it off as him just being generous or wanting to enjoy life, but after we got married, it became more of a problem. Still, I thought it was something we could work through. Our kids adore their dad, and for the most part, he's a good father. But when it comes to the daily grind, I'm the one who's really in the trenches. I'm the one who deals with the tantrums, the school projects, and the endless stream of laundry. Adam works long hours, so he's not around as much, and when he is, he's usually too tired to do much. I've learned to manage, though, because that's just how things are. Now, Adam has this sister, let's call her Kelly, who's 29. She's the textbook definition of a spoiled brat. Their parents have always catered to her every whim, and Adam is no different. She's never held a steady job, and she has this entitled attitude like the world owes her something. Kelly always seems to have some crisis or another that requires everyone else to drop what they're doing and help her out. It's infuriating, but Adam insists that family comes first. I've tried talking to him about setting boundaries, especially since we're not exactly rolling in money, but those conversations never go anywhere. He promises to talk to her, but then nothing changes. Our financial situation isn't terrible, but it's not great either. Adam makes a decent salary, but with just one income, we have to be careful. We have a joint savings account that's supposed to be for emergencies and the kids' future. We've talked about using it to help with their education or maybe take a nice family vacation, but we're also trying to build a bit of a cushion for unexpected expenses. I'm the one who manages the household budget, making sure we don't overspend, but I've always trusted Adam when it comes to the bigger financial decisions. I thought we were on the same page, but recently, I found out just how wrong I was. Kelly has always been a handful. She's the type of person who never seems to learn from her mistakes because there's always someone there to bail her out. She's never had to face the consequences of her actions, and it shows. She's lived beyond her means for as long as I've known her, constantly buying things she can't afford and then running to her parents or Adam when the bills start piling up. And every single time, Adam drops everything to help her out, no questions asked. It wasn't always like this between Adam and me. Early on in our marriage, I didn't mind helping Kelly out once in a while. But it became a pattern. Every few months, there was a new emergency that required Adam to step in with money or time. I've tried talking to him about it so many times, explaining that we need to focus on our own family, especially now that we have kids. He'd always agree in the moment, say he understood, but then he'd go right back to doing whatever Kelly wanted. Kelly's latest stunt was the worst yet. She decided she needed a lavish birthday party, something out of a movie, with all the bells and whistles. She didn't have the money for it, of course, but that didn't stop her from making plans and sending out invites. And when it came time to actually pay for everything, she turned to Adam. I didn't know anything about it until it was too late. I've always been the one who handles our day-to-day finances. I keep track of our expenses, pay the bills, and check our accounts regularly. It's not glamorous, but it's necessary, especially when you're living on one income. So, one morning, I was going through our accounts like I usually do, and I noticed a massive withdrawal from our joint savings, $10,000, gone just like that. My heart nearly stopped. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe some kind of banking error. But when I looked into it, I saw that it wasn't a mistake at all. The money had been transferred to Kelly. I tried calling Adam immediately, but he didn't pick up. I left messages, sent texts, nothing. As the day went on, I went from worried to furious. How could he do something like this without even talking to me? That money wasn't just his to give away. I couldn't understand why he would make such a huge decision without consulting me first. When Adam finally came home that evening, he was acting completely normal, like nothing had happened. I tried to stay calm as I asked him about the withdrawal. At first, he seemed confused, but then he casually mentioned that he had given the money to Kelly for her birthday party. He said it like it was no big deal, like it was something any brother would do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked him why he didn't talk to me about it first, and his response floored me. He actually had the nerve to tell me that he didn't think it was necessary to bother me with something so trivial. Trivial? $10,000 was trivial to him? I was so angry, I could barely see straight. I told him that he had no right to take that money without discussing it with me, especially since it was meant for our kids' future. And that's when he lost it. He started yelling, calling me a stupid irrational housewife who didn't understand how real money worked. He said I should shut up and let him handle things because he knew what he was doing. I was in shock. I couldn't believe the things he was saying to me. We'd had arguments before, but he had never spoken to me like that. After his outburst, Adam stormed out of the house, leaving me standing there, speechless. The kids, who had been in the other room, heard the whole thing. Our son came into the kitchen, asking if everything was okay. I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged him and told him everything would be fine, even though I wasn't sure I believed it myself. The next few days were tense, to say the least. Adam and I barely spoke to each other, and when we did, it was just the bare minimum about the kids or the house. Every time I looked at Adam, I felt this sense of betrayal. But Adam, on the other hand, acted like everything was fine. He made a few half-hearted attempts to smooth things over, saying we should just forget about the whole thing and move on. But every time I tried to bring up the issue, he would shut me down, saying I was overreacting. It was like he was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was the one in the wrong. Then came the preparations for Kelly's birthday party. Adam insisted that we all go, saying it would be good for us to get out of the house and that the kids would have fun. I didn't want to go at all. The thought of celebrating Kelly's birthday, knowing that it had cost us $10,000, made me sick to my stomach. But Adam wouldn't let it go, and I didn't want to make things worse, so I reluctantly agreed. The party was just as over the top as I'd expected. Kelly had rented out this fancy venue with extravagant decorations and entertainment. It was clear that she had spared no expense, which only made me angrier. I could barely stand to be there, surrounded by all these people who were gushing over how amazing everything was. Adam, of course, he was all smiles, acting like he was the world's best brother for making all of this possible. When Kelly made her grand entrance, it was like something out of a bad reality show. She was dressed in this ridiculously expensive outfit. She made a big show of thanking Adam for his generous contribution, saying she couldn't have pulled off such a fabulous party without him. Then came the gift-giving ceremony. Kelly made a point of announcing that Adam had given her $10,000 as her gift, which of course, made everyone ooh and ah. I stood there, feeling completely humiliated. It was like she was rubbing it in my face, and Adam was just standing there, soaking up all the praise. Some of Kelly's friends even came up to me and made snide comments about how lucky I was to have such a generous husband. I wanted to scream, but I just plastered on a fake smile and tried to get through the night. At one point, I had to excuse myself and went to the restroom to try and calm down. That's when Kelly came in, clearly tipsy, and started making these passive-aggressive comments about how some people just don't understand what it means to support family. She didn't say it outright, but it was obvious she was talking about me. I bit my tongue, trying not to lose it, but she kept pushing, saying how grateful she was to have a brother who wasn't stingy like some people. I don't know how I managed to keep my cool, but I did. I just told her that I hoped she enjoyed her party and walked out. I couldn't stay there any longer, so I told Adam that I was taking the kids home. He was furious, saying I was being dramatic and ruining the night. But eventually he agreed and the ride home was quiet. After the party, things only got worse between us. We were barely speaking, and when we did, it was like we were walking on eggshells around each other. Adam started sleeping in the guest room, and meals were quiet and awkward. I started to feel like I was living with a stranger. Adam was distant, spending even more time at work and avoiding any kind of meaningful conversation. Whenever I tried to bring up what had happened, he would just brush me off, saying we needed to move on. But I couldn't move on, not when I was so worried about our financial situation and what this meant for our future. In the midst of all this, I started making some quiet moves to protect myself and the kids. I did some research on financial independence and even consulted a divorce attorney, just to understand my options. I didn't make any decisions, but I wanted to be prepared. I also opened a separate bank account and started transferring small amounts of money into it, just in case. It wasn't much, but it was something. I also tightened our household budget, cutting out anything non-essential. Adam didn't seem to notice or care, too wrapped up in his own world. But I knew that we couldn't keep going like this, not with the way things were heading. One evening, I overheard Adam on the phone with a colleague. He was talking about some issues at work, something about an upcoming audit and budget concerns. I didn't catch all the details, but it sounded serious. He mentioned needing to find a solution before things got worse, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I was too focused on trying to hold everything together at home. 2 weeks after the party, Adam came home one evening looking like he'd seen a ghost. He was pale, sweating, and couldn't seem to sit still. I asked him what was wrong, and for the first time in weeks, he actually looked at me, really looked at me. Then he told me that he was in big trouble at work. There had been a surprise audit, and they'd found some serious financial discrepancies in the accounts he was responsible for. His boss had given him an ultimatum: come up with $15,000 to cover the shortfall, or he'd be fired. I was stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Adam explained that he had made some risky investments with company funds and had also used the corporate accounts for some personal expenses, thinking he could cover it up before anyone noticed. But now, everything had come crashing down, and he was on the brink of losing his job. He begged me to help him, saying that we needed to come up with the money fast. He admitted that he had already emptied our savings account, the same one he had taken the $10,000 from for Kelly's party. Now he wanted to dip into what little money I had set aside in my personal account. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After everything he had put me through, now he was coming to me, desperate for help. The nerve of it all was just too much. I couldn't believe that he had continued to be so irresponsible with our money, even after everything that had happened. I told Adam that I wasn't sure I could help him this time. I couldn't keep bailing him out when he was the one who kept putting us in these situations. He tried to guilt-trip me, saying that we were a family and that we needed to stick together. But I stood my ground. I told him that trust had been broken, and I wasn't willing to risk our future for his mistakes. Adam didn't take my refusal well. He started calling everyone he could think of, his parents, friends, even Kelly, to try and come up with the money. But it didn't go the way he expected. His parents, who had always been there to bail him out, were furious when they found out what he had done. They said they couldn't keep enabling his behavior and that it was time for him to face the consequences. They refused to give him any money, saying it was a necessary lesson. Adam was shocked. He had always been able to count on his parents to help him out of any jam, but not this time. Then he turned to Kelly, asking her to return at least some of the money he had given her for the party. But Kelly, being Kelly, refused outright. She said she had already spent it all and that it wasn't her problem. She even had the audacity to accuse Adam of being disloyal, saying that if he really loved her, he wouldn't be asking for the money back. As word spread through the family about what was happening, the judgment started pouring in. Adam's aunts, uncles, and cousins were all talking about how irresponsible he had been and how it was time for him to grow up. I even got a few calls from his relatives, offering their support and telling me that I was doing the right thing by standing my ground. The more desperate Adam became, the more irrational his ideas got. He talked about taking out high-interest loans, selling off whatever valuables we had, and even doing some shady side jobs to make quick cash. It was like he was grasping at straws, trying to find any way to get out of the mess he had created. One evening, I decided that enough was enough. I sat Adam down and told him that we needed to have a serious conversation. Adam tried once again to plead with me. He promised that he would change, that he would take full responsibility for everything, and that he just needed one last chance to make things right. He begged me not to give up on him, for the sake of our marriage and our children. But I was done with empty promises. I reminded him of all the times he had said the same things before and how he had broken my trust again and again. I told him that I couldn't keep living like this, constantly worrying about what he was going to do next. He needed to prove that he could change, and until then, I wasn't willing to put our future at risk. That's when Adam dropped another bombshell. He admitted that this wasn't the first time he had dipped into our savings without telling me. Over the years, he had secretly taken money out to cover up other debts and even to fund a gambling habit that he had been hiding from me. In the days that followed, Adam did everything he could to try and come up with the money his boss demanded. He sold off some personal items, borrowed from whoever he could, and even took out a high-interest loan as a last resort. It was a desperate move, but it bought him some time. Our relationship with Kelly and Adam's parents became strained. There was less contact, and when we did speak, it was clear that things weren't the same. Kelly tried to manipulate the situation, but I wasn't having any of it. Adam's parents seemed to finally understand the damage their enabling had caused, and they took a step back, letting Adam face the consequences of his actions. For me, this whole ordeal was a wake-up call. I started looking into part-time jobs. I knew that I needed to be financially independent, not just for myself, but for the sake of my kids. I will make a short update if something happens, otherwise this will be the final post of this whole saga. Thank you guys for reading. Final update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since I last posted, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. A lot has changed since my last post, and I thought it was important to share how things have unfolded. So, after everything that went down with Kelly and the $10,000 mess, Adam and I made the decision to cut ties with her completely. I know some of you suggested this from the start, and honestly, I wish we had done it sooner. We blocked her number, unfriended her on social media, and informed Adam's parents that we were stepping back. It was a hard decision because, despite everything, she's still family. But for the sake of our marriage and our sanity, it had to be done. The relief I felt afterward was indescribable. On a more personal note, I have started working part-time in marketing again, and it's been such a good feeling to be back in the game. It's not easy juggling work with everything at home, but it's worth it. I've also started building an emergency fund just for me and the kids. It's still small, but it's growing, and knowing we have that cushion makes me feel a lot more secure. As for Adam, he's been working hard to turn things around. He started budgeting, something he never did before, and he consults me on every financial decision, no matter how small. It's going to take time to rebuild the trust that was broken, but he's making progress. We're still a work in progress, and there are days when it feels like we're just barely holding it together. But we're moving forward, and that's what counts. We've come a long way from where we were, and I'm hopeful that we'll continue to grow stronger as a family. To everyone who's been following my story, thank you so much for your support. Your comments, advice, and encouragement have meant the world to me. It's been incredibly difficult to share this part of my life, but knowing that there are people out there who understand has made it a little easier. I'm so grateful for every kind word and piece of advice. Thank you for reminding me that I'm not alone in this. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Husband passed away, leaving me with 3 kids. I skipped meals to feed my family and used food banks to stay alive. Throwaway account. My husband unexpectedly passed away a few months ago, and I became a single mother to 3 kids. Age 16M, 14F and 2F. Due to the significant decrease of income, I was no longer able to continue renting where we were, and all I can afford is a 1-bedroom apartment. Currently, I am sleeping in the living room with my youngest 2F. I gave the bedroom to my 16M and 14F and asked them to share in the meanwhile. I tried adding a privacy screen in the middle so they feel like they have their own space, but they are telling me that this isn't acceptable. Each of my kids used to have their own rooms, so this is a massive change for them. I have been looking for a better paying job for months and so far have had no luck. I can't get a second job because I can't afford to pay someone to care for my daughter 2F outside daycare hours. Neither of my kids 16M and 14F are willing to help, and they say my youngest is not their responsibility. I know this situation isn't ideal, but I don't know what else I can do. For the past month, I've not been eating anything for 2 days a week and just telling the kids I'm trying out the fasting trend for weight loss purposes. But the truth is, I can't afford to feed us all, and I have been using the food bank. Prior to this, I had never had to use food bank services before, and I am so thankful that it exists. I am both thankful and deeply ashamed at the same time. Would I be the odd for telling my teens that they must share the bedroom? Would it be better if I suggested my son sleep in the living room with me and have both my female kids share the bedroom instead? I do not live in the US, but it is not common for teenagers of opposite sex to share a bedroom. That is something I do absolutely recognize. Edit. Gosh, I really wasn't expecting so many responses when I checked back. Thank you, everyone. All this time, I did feel it would be unfair to put adult problems on my kids. However, I will be giving them a surface level talk about our finances. I'll also be bringing them with me to the food bank. Hopefully, they'll be more understanding. Edit 2. The bedroom is larger than the living room. I am able to fit 2 single beds into the bedroom and the kids have space to store their clothes while still having the room divider in the middle. The living room is smaller. I currently have my youngest and my own clothes stored in the hallway due to lack of space. It is right next to the washroom and kitchen, so there is a lot of foot traffic. The living room also doubles as dining space because there is no dining room. OOP is voted NTA. Update post, March 7, 2023. I had a chat with my kids after work. I still don't want to put an adult problem onto my kids, so I only gave them a brief overview of the dire financial issues we're having after my husband/their father passed away. Us downsizing to a 1-bedroom apartment was not by choice. I also told them the truth about how I couldn't afford to feed us all and why I didn't eat 2 days of the week. I was afraid of how they would take the news, but it had gone better than I expected. My kids will be coming with me to the food bank for the next trip to help out. In terms of the rooming situation, both my older kids agreed that they did not want to share a room with my youngest 2F because she frequently wakes up at night and also has accidents. They also don't want to share with me because I get up much earlier than them to work, and it would disrupt their sleep. They would rather share the room with each other while I continue to sleep in the living room with my youngest. My 16M and 14F told me that their friends were saying no kid should ever have to watch their sibling because they didn't create them. They've been told by their friends that it's parentification to be asked to babysit for even an hour, and it is never okay in any circumstance. That was why they kept calling me an asshole when I asked if they could help with childcare so I could get a second job. Now that they know how bad the situation is, my son said he wants to find a part-time job to help contribute. My daughter apologized and said it wasn't that she hated me or her sister. Both my son and daughter said they are willing to help take care of the youngest so I can get a second job. Hopefully, I can find something soon and be able to move to a larger space. Relevant comments. Commenter, did your kids call you an asshole? Oop, not exactly. But I was called an irresponsible parent for pushing my responsibility onto them initially. I asked because I didn't see any other choice. Family helps family. There wasn't anyone else I could have asked. New update. Since my last post explaining my housing situation, I have found a night shift job working security. It only pays minimum wage, and I only get 25 hours per week, but it's at least something. I now work 2 jobs. So far this job has been very relaxed. There honestly isn't much to do during my shifts, so I'm trying to save up enough money so I can move to somewhere larger as well as take an online training program while working. I already asked my manager and he said he was okay with me taking remote training while on my shift, as long as there truly is nothing to do and it doesn't negatively impact my ability to work when needed. Hopefully, I can find a better job after upskilling.